When the three goddesses of Hyrule created this channel, I never thought I would stoop so low as to discuss Zelda timeline theories. Like Link diving from the heavens down a well, here I am at the bottom of the barrel, standing bravely alongside my fellow neck-bearded Zelda theorists, ready to go to war against the new opinions on a video game. With a new game brings new opportunities. New opportunities to experience a world of pure imagination. New opportunities to understand the rich tapestry of the game's story. And new opportunities for furries to fantasize about how they've been included in a story written by middle-aged Japanese game designers. I'm really sorry to say this, because you're not going to like what I have to say today. You'll probably show up at my house with a flame emitter and call for my blood, because that's what Zelda fans do. We wipe our Dorito fingers on our jeans, pick up our keyboard, and overreact to every tiny thing on the internet like our lives depend on it. So make sure to unlike, to unsubscribe, and to abuse me in the comments. With Tears of the Kingdom, we suddenly have perspective to the Switch's version of Hyrule, and some fact to go with what has only been very vague speculation, as Breath of the Wild kind of refused to give any hard evidence of Hyrulean history. Theorists are taking Nintendo's timeline and they're trying to make it fit in strange ways that don't work. It's as awkward as that time a grown woman regretted not hitting on Link when he was a 10-year-old. But of course these theorists are going to make new theories no matter what's put in front of them. It's what they do for a living. Doritos and Mountain Dew do not come cheap in the current economy. Unlike theorists though, this will not be a 3-hour video analysing the wood grain of the Lon Lon Ranch ruins. Lon Lon confirmed. But I will point out that their big brain opinions on where Tears of the Kingdom fits in time are just dancing around ideas that don't work, trying to convince you of lies. Zelda lies. Let's take a look, but again, I'm warning you, you are going to crucify me like a Korok by the time we're done. But maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to convert some of you to timeline atheism. There's bound to be more theories in future, but there's two main concepts flying around at the moment. The first is that the last two games bookend the rest of the series, with the three timelines merging at some point. I'm going to assume that you're familiar with Nintendo's absolutely mental timeline, featuring a timeline split for both adult and child Link after Ocarina of Time. And then a third split for if the player loses to Ganondorf, turns the game off, throws the cartridge in a river, then a bird picks it up and hides it somewhere that a Zelda theorist would never think to look. But Mr. Miyamoto, that doesn't make sense. I don't care! The second theory is that it's somehow so distant in time that it's segregated from everything else by millennia. The second theory implies that we wouldn't have any real consistency from the series, given that it's set so much later than the other games. But we do. We have wooden ruins of landmarks from other games, for example. Lon Lon confirmed. We even have special evolution in earlier games, but not even anything significant in the apparent millennia in between. Plus, the Rito bird people just don't fit into the story. It just doesn't work. The theory's wrong. The Rito appear in Wind Waker and carry on to Breath of the Wild. That's sensible, but Tears of the Kingdom puts them clearly into the story before they even existed, at the founding of Hyrule. That's why the subscription to the first theory, the merging worlds theory, is the strongest one. The remerging of Ocarina of Time split timelines makes less sense than Nintendo's practice of hiring the most evil people imaginable onto their legal team. The idea is that somehow the three separated timelines fuse back together again, and somehow that explains why there's Easter eggs and elements from earlier games all over the place. But neither of these two theories explains how Link's pants survived for thousands of years, and why Link is cool with jumping into them with all that ancient ball sweat that's been fermenting into the cheesy fabric. Feels good, bro. Even if we stretch credulity and accept that somehow it's possible to ram three different timelines together without everyone exploding in showers of red mist and globs of meat, there's an even bigger problem. The stories completely contradict. You can say whatever you like to try to get the timeline to work out at the end, but there's no way around the problems at the start. And it's simple. In Zelda Skyward Sword, the evil Demise was killed, but he was so powerful that he began a cycle of reincarnation. He would be reborn as Ganondorf, and would be beaten by Link's reincarnation. He would be reborn again as Ganon, and be beaten by Link's reincarnation. Eventually, in the modern era, he would be reborn as Nintendo's legal team and truly spread evil across the world. So with that in mind, if the Furry King fought Ganondorf and put him to sleep using his magic hand, then how did Demise begin the reincarnation cycle of Link, Zelda, and Ganon later on than that? If Ganondorf really existed before Demise and was still alive and frozen in time, then how was Demise his spiritual ancestor? I'm not a Buddhist or anything, but I'm pretty confident that you need to die prior to being reincarnated. It's an official prerequisite. Unless Nintendo inserts some sort of weird grandfather paradox and sends Ganondorf back in time, then there's just no way around the smoking gun. Sure, the theorists will try. That's only because they're like us and they want it to be true. I guess they're a little bit like us in some ways. But they just want everything to fit together. So with that in mind, I can tell you what will come next from the Zelda theorists. I know what they're going to say. Brace yourselves for the two Ganondorfs theory. There is going to be a Zelda theorist that starts talking about two Ganondorfs. I guarantee it. They're going to say that Rauru reincarnated as both Rauru the Sage and Kapora Gabora the Owl, and somehow that proves that there's actually two Ganondorfs and that Calamity Ganon was one while Sleepy Ganondorf was the other. And they're going to say that Sleepy Ganondorf made all the other Ganondorfs in the other games while he was sleeping. Just you watch. I want there to be a fascinating and wonderful history that connects everything together in incredible ways. I want Zelda nerds wearing Triforce t-shirts to clap as I pass by down the street. I want to show off and tell you that I cracked the impossible timeline code. But there isn't one. I'm really sorry, but there's not. So what's the obvious conclusion? These last two games either exist in their own distinct timeline, or this Hyrule is a different place, separate from our regular Hyrule that we're used to, like Lorule and Termina are. Either way, it's a standalone Zelda series. I know you don't like it, but there's not even clear continuity between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom almost feels like a remake of Breath of the Wild rather than a sequel, and a lot of elements earmark it as an adaptation. And most of the time, they don't even bother following on anything that you did in the first game. So when Nintendo aren't even invested in the continuity of a sequel, it's just not realistic to expect them to be invested in the continuity of every single title in the canon. These recent games don't even have a Triforce in them. Guys like Shigeru Miyamoto want to make great games. Unfortunately, they're just not into historical consistency. Eiji Aonuma, Nintendo designer, director and producer, and human adult male, was quoted as saying, "Those timeline-related questions are difficult because we've never designed any Zelda game by saying, hey, we're going to put that game here. We need to have it fit into this period or that one, etc. That's not what comes first for us." Which translates into Australian as, "Don't really care, mate." In contrast, however, Shigeru Miyamoto, patron god of Nintendo and resident of Earth, was quoted as saying, "The only thing I hate more than our legal team is a Zelda theorist. I do really like dressing up in my Rauru fursuit though." And could Nintendo come out and change the story? For sure. But for now, authorial intent says that they must be standalone. And the evidence says that they're standalone. And that means that they're standalone. Hit me up in the comments and rage if you like. Oh, and by the way, this video contains spoilers.